Hey, Flimsy Lunch Tray here, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the HMS Cossack, which is a premium Tier 8 British destroyer, and we're going to be discussing the ideal upgrade and commander build, in my opinion, as of after the update 0.10.0 with the commander rework, as that's changed a few things in the game. So, as normal, as you guys know, those who have been around, we first need to discuss what type of ship is the Cossack. Well, we know she's a destroyer, right? But what kind of destroyer is she? There's three types of destroyers in the game. You have a torpedo destroyer, you have a hybrid destroyer, and you have gunboating destroyer. So when we look at Cossack and just kind of see how she's built and equipped, we can see that Cossack, I would say, lies somewhere between a hybrid destroyer and a gunboat destroyer. She doesn't lie so much more towards the center and being an even hybrid, because she only has one rack of torpedoes, where she gets four 533 millimeter torpedoes, Mark IIs. But what she does get is she gets this main battery across the ship here. She gets 4 turrets, as we kind of hop around looking at her, where they have a reload time of 5 seconds. They're 120 millimeters, 180 degree turn time of 9 seconds as is, and pretty good fire chance. Maximum range 11.9. So 9% chances of HE shell causing a fire on target. It's not so bad. I seem to have pretty good luck with setting fires on Cossack. So she lies between a hybrid and a gunboat destroyer. So in between there, that's what I would say. So let's go ahead and look at the modules and the upgrades. So when you get HMS Cossack, she's a premium ship. She already comes fully equipped and with all modules, so you don't have to mess with that after getting her. But then you get 5 slots for the upgrades. So let's take a look at that. So for slot 1, recommend taking main armament modification 1 because you have it gives you the risk of your main battery and torpedo tubes from becoming incapacitated. It reduces that by -20%. Your main battery survivability and torpedo tube survivability is increased by 50%, and your main battery and torpedo tube repair time, if they should become incapacitated, is -20%. Where you really don't need magazine modification. Because when you look at the signals, just take Juliet Charlie combat signal, as it completely eliminates the risk of your ship's magazine detonating. If you're playing in ranked, randoms, clan battles, you should always be taking Juliet Charlie, regardless of ship, even though I believe carriers cannot detonate. You could have 2 choices here on the upgrades for slot 2, and the other option is not here, but I'll show you where it's at, where you go with engine room protection. So the risk of your engine becoming incapacitated is reduced by -20%, your engine repair time reduced by -20%, the risk of your steering gears becoming incapacitated also reduced by -20%, and the steering gears repair time is also reduced by -20%. Because as a destroyer, it is vital to keep your maneuverability as well as your engines going. So that's really important. And if you look at the armory, the second possible slot or upgrade I was referencing, you'll find here, as it slowly loads for us, where you have on upgrades, you have this one here. You have Hydroacoustic Search Modification 1. The upgrade is available in slot 2 on ships equipped with the Hydroacoustic Search. And so the action time of the consumable is increased by +20% that you can get for the coupon for 12,750 coal. So it increases the action time of the consumable by 20%. So what is the action time of the consumable now? The action time of the consumable now is, so I pull up my calculator here. So action time right now is 180 seconds. So if you increase that by 20%, 180 plus 36 seconds, so that means you get 216 seconds of action time of your consumable, which is essentially divided by 60, which is 3.6 minutes of hydroacoustic search, which is quite nice. And we're going to be maybe revisiting and talking about why that actually might be a good thing for you to take on slot 2. If you find your engine room getting knocked out a lot, then perhaps you should just stick with this. Then for slot 3, you have 4 options here. You already have a pretty decent traverse time of your turrets of 9 seconds. So for me, and then your AA is garbage on Cossack. Don't really worry about AA. And then torpedo tubes, you only get 4 of them, so there's really no sense of investing in that. So I prefer to invest in Aiming Systems Modification 1, where the maximum dispersion of your main battery shells is reduced by -7%. Your torpedo tube's traverse speed is plus 20%, so you can get your torpedoes on target a little bit quicker. And then secondaries, of course, do not apply to this destroyer. For slot 4, I recommend taking Steering Gears Modification 1 because it reduces your rudder shift time. So if you look at the rudder shift time, it's 2.9 seconds. So that's really great because maneuverability is a really, you can really maximize it here with Cossack because she has one of the best rudder shift times in the game. So ideally you want to emphasize that here in slot 4. In slot 5, we have 4 options. I would recommend taking Concealment System Modification because you can get really great concealment for Cossack, where right now in the game, she would be placed top 4 of destroyers with her present concealment. So when you buy the ship, your concealment is 6.97 kilometers. And then the first thing you do, with these upgrades, you buy the Consumables System Modifications 1, because you have to remember, this one also reduces your detectability range by air, and also the dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship is increased by 5%. But at 6.97, you mount this, it drops to 6.27, and then you go in and add Concealment Expert, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It drops to 5.65, and then you get this camouflage that comes with the ship, where it reduces your detectability range by C by a further -3%, which ultimately brings you to 5.5, is what it will show here. Technically, it'd be 5.476 kilometers. So that's top 4 in the game. The other ships that out-detect you would be the Kagero, the Harakaze, and the Sasio. And then you come in 4th, as is right now, to my knowledge, in the game as I record this video. And then you don't get any different options for your consumables. You get the typical short burst smoke generators that you find on British destroyers. You get the engine boost, which is great for Cossack. And then that hydroacoustic search, which detection of torpedoes and ships is 3 kilometers. So really handy. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the captain. So I have the Mighty Jingles. I use him on Cossack, Thunder, and I'll probably actually start using him on Nelson more too, but I have a bit different build for Nelson since it's I mostly play Nelson in operations in Arai, but I like having Jingles on here. So I've not played a ton with Jingles until as of lately. So right now I only have 10 points. So this is the bread and butter build of most any destroyer. There's very few exceptions to this build. So for your first point, you're going to go preventive maintenance, which reduces the risk of main turrets, torpedo tubes, steering gears, and engines becoming incapacitated. And that's the best option you get, particularly, especially for Cossack. When you look at these first 1-pointers, Traditionally, priority target was a 1-point skill, and I wouldn't take preventive maintenance. I would have taken priority target as a 1-point skill. But this is where we are at, so you have to take a 1-point skill to be able to move on. 3-point captain. Next, you're going to take a last stand. The ship remains partially able to sustain speed and maneuverability with the engine and steering gears becoming if they become incapacitated. So basically, you get a penalty on the rudder shift time and the speed of your ship, but it's vital, so you're not sitting duck and just being shot the heck out of if your repair party or damage control party is on cooldown. 6 points. You go survivability expert. HP increases for each ship tier is 350. So basically that means for a tier 8 ship, we added 2,800 HP to this ship. So it was 18,000 to begin with. So if we minus 2,800, it was 15,200 is the HP of the ship stock. And so you definitely want survivability expert. Keeps you longer in the game to have that nice hefty 18,000 points of your health pool. For a 10-point build with your 4 points, you want to take ship detectability range, the concealment expert, which reduces your ship's detectability range by -10%. Because Cossack already has such great concealment, and just making it even less works really well and helps you to fight with other destroyers in particularly, so on and so forth. And so this is the bread and butter build. This is what you can do with 10 points. And honestly, if I have destroyer and it has this, if I need the bread and butter build and I don't have a 10-point commander, I won't take the ship into random battles or ranked until I have a 10-point commander like this, because your play experience is going to be so different. Because if you didn't have this, you'd be sitting closer to 6-kilometer detection range, and so that just really can affect the play style of the ship and makes you hesitant to get more closer. So 10-point build. Okay, then after this, I think there's 2 main options you have in mind, and I'll go ahead and discuss that. And show you first what I'm going to take. So let's see here. This is always the tricky part. Which one would you want to go first with? And you can decide which one you might want to take first. For myself, particularly, I have decided I'm going to take Superintendent first. It's another defense skill, because it increases the charges that you have to your short burst smoke generator, your engine boost, and your hydroacoustic search. 6 smoke screens is a lot, but I tend to use them because I like to use the guns a lot, and I like to fire being undetected. So if I have 7 smoke screens, that works really well, because when you look at the action time of the consumable, it's 10 seconds, and the smoke screen dispersion time is 40 seconds. So you don't get to hang around there too long, especially if you're fighting with other destroyers, as you don't always necessarily want to sit in your smoke screen. So that's going to be my 13-point. Next, it's really up to you at this point. When the next 3 skills, or is it 4 skills that I'm going to show you? 3 skills. So basically, this is what I'm looking to do right here. And we'll break through down why is that. So 13-point Superintendent. Next, I'm actually probably going to go, it's really a toss-up between these two, which one I would take next. And so the same can be for you. Originally, this skill was kind of like basic fire training, where you got a 10% main battery reload time, but now it's only 5%, because your reload time on your guns as is 5 seconds. So if you take that, you get 4.8 seconds. So for me, I might actually take this first, because if you're also firing, if you haven't lost much of your health pool, you already go ahead and you already get the first bonus with having a 16-point commander and taking this. So it's the main battery and AA specialist, and the continuous damage of AA is improved by 10%. Now let me show you how trash the AA is on Cossack. Your firing range, first off, is 2.5 kilometers. And we increased our continuous damage if we take this skill from 47 to 52, which is just like really bad. So, and for comparison, let's look at American Destroyer, Tier 8. If I compared it to the kid, that might be unfair. Yeah, 97 for Benson, and I don't even have a full 10-point commander where that even would come into play yet. See 106. So you want to avoid CVs, carriers, planes, whenever you get the opportunity. And I really battled back and forth whether or not I wanted to take this skill. And I chose it because it synergizes well with Adrenaline Rush and getting your main battery reload time down continuously even more, where you might be looking at something maybe like a 4.6, 4.5 reload time, or maybe it's a little less once you've taken some damage. So this is what I would do with a 19-point commander. And then with 20 points, me personally, probably going to go priority target. I've done really well so far playing Cossack with not needing priority target. Usually I always like to take it pretty quickly. But this time around I've been fine because your concealment's so good, and usually you're always out to spotting other destroyers. But where it really comes more into play is because your smoke, you only get, those smoke screens are, they happen so quickly. The cooldown, the action time and dispersion time. So action time is 10 seconds, dispersion time is 40 seconds. And I don't always tend to stick around those smoke screens very long, especially if I'm dealing with destroyers. So this allows you to kind of embrace that in between of that hybrid gunboat build where you can be open firing on a battleship. If you saw the how to play Cossack videos that I produced, I had 3 parts, like how to play Cossack and ranked. You would have saw in, I think it was the part 3, where that Iowa, he focused his guns on me next. And so, just having a bit more heads up so I could have smoked up sooner would have maybe helped me there. So this, right now, as I record this video, this is what I'm looking to do with a 21-point commander build. Now, at the same time, there's actually 2 other builds here that you could do. So if you are totally fine without going with priority target, which I kind of feel like I am with Cossack to a certain extent, maybe you want to pick up consumable enhancements, because that further boosts the duration of your hydroacoustic search and the action time of your smoke generator by plus 10%. So then instead of having a 10% action time of your smoke generator, you get 11-second action time of your smoke generator. And then look at that. Also, the engine boost consumable action time is increased by 10%. And then again, that hydroacoustic search. So when I was talking about the slot 2 hydroacoustic search upgrade, that boosts you up to like 3.6 minutes. So if you took this on top of, you see that was 3.6, so it was 180 seconds, and then it was 36 with the slot 2. So that's 216 seconds. And then if we go 216 times 10, that's 21.6. Yeah, so 237.6 seconds is how long your hydroacoustic search is going to be active for. So if you divide that, this equals divided by 60, then basically you have your hydroacoustic search is up for 4 minutes instead of just 3 minutes. So that's actually quite nice. And also for the fact that it even increases your engine boost time from 120 seconds to what would be 132 seconds. So that is a very arguably good build to do. So honestly, I mean, the more I talk about it, the more it's easy for me to think maybe this. So it's a real toss-up between these two. But the fact that this, you have 3 things that it's affecting instead of just maybe 1 or 2, really makes this look to be a good competitor. So once I get through here, then I'll decide what I do with my last 2 points. But honestly, you know, I might actually take this up just so I have a 4-minute hydroacoustic search. Because your cooldown on your hydroacoustic search, reload time is 114 seconds. So it's not too bad. And then you have it up for another 4 minutes, right? So if you're facing destroyers a lot, that's actually really good. Because if you're combating with other destroyers, you know they're already going to be focusing you. So then consumable is enhancements. So I think actually, the more I've talked about it, I think this is actually the route I'm going to go. You know, originally, like, you know, if you look at, there's another YouTuber who's kind of had a build on Cossack. And I was actually also reviewing what Little White Mouse showed, what she had. You know, originally it was actually kind of like this, except taking priority target instead of preventative maintenance, because this used to be a 1-point skill. So this is what we're going to take. My plan's taking for Cossack. So then you have the second option of you can do that. Or if you like to have RPF, you could do... you could decide between, I mean, these two synergize really well. If you want to have the extra, then maybe I would say do this. And then if you want to have incoming fire alert, I'd say it'd be a toss-up between maybe this guy and maybe this guy. Or if you want to have an extra flood chance, you can, but you only get 4 torpedoes. So you could do that if you really want RPF. For me, battling thus far, I've not really needed RPF because I generally always have a pretty good idea where the enemy destroyers are. I mean, if you're going across the map and there's an enemy destroyer left and you have no idea where he was because he's not been detected for the last minute or two, then that can be kind of dicey. But because your concealment is so good, where you have 5.5 or technically 5.476, and that you're one of the top 4 best destroyers concealment-wise, usually you get the drop on other destroyers first before they'll get the drop on you. And I'll put Little White Mouse's her review in the description below, so if you want to check out what she has up. But know that the commander build she shows is before update 0.10.0 of the commander rework. So I think that covers everything for this video. So yeah, as a summary, this is what I plan to do with the build, just because it works. These two synergize really well, and then of course have some synergy going on here, especially if you take the hydroacoustic search for slot 2, where it increases the action time by 20%. I'll definitely be taking that. If I could get it now, I would, but I'm actually about to buy one of the higher point commanders in the armory. That's like 175,000 coal, and I'm like 5,000 coal away. So this is what I'm doing. You could do this. If consumable enhancements is not that big of a deal to you, you could do that. If you really want to have RPF, you could do something like this. And if you want to really have additional charges, then I would say probably give up the main battery and A specialist and go like that. So you have a few different options. And I guess since I actually have to touch on why don't I take some of the other skills. Grease the gears, you already have a really good traverse of your main battery, which is 9 seconds. You only get 4 torpedoes, so liquidator is kind of a waste. You don't need gun feeder. You already have a quick reload time. Incoming fire alert, as the build I just highlighted, you could do something like that. You already have a pretty good relative chance for causing fire, but I'd rather use those 2 points elsewhere. Torpedo speed, you're really not a torpedo boat, so I'm really not going to invest in that. We've talked about consumables enhancements. You don't have heavy AP shells as a destroyer, so not worth it, in my opinion. We talked about priority target. We talked about main battery and AA specialist. Quicker reload time on your torpedoes. Right now, stock, your torpedo tubes are a 66-second reload. So if you took this, you're looking at a 59.4-second reload on fielded tubes. So that's kind of cool, but again, you only get 4 torpedoes, where, you know, this skill could be better used on something like the Jutland, the Daring. We've talked about Adrenaline Rush. I personally don't really care too much for IFHE unless you have 6-inch guns. So I just generally, I don't take it because you're not crossing any major thresholds. But you get the penalty of the chances of causing a fire by HE shell without modifiers applied or reduced by half. We talked about Superintendent. Main battery and AA expert, your AA is trash, so you really left with just the main battery firing range, and your main battery firing range already is 11.9. If you try to shoot anything further, it's kind of wonky and hard to hit anything. Swift and Silence, you already have really good speed, not worth it. Radio location, we've talked about. Fearless Brawler, again, it's giving you a buff to your AA, but your detectability range is increased by 5%, but your main battery reload time is reduced by negative 10%, and that's a can-be activated skill, so only within... reduces main battery reload time after your ship has been detected by the enemy. So not worth it. Little White Mouse talked about Dazzle. It's not that big of a deal. I'd rather take the 4 points elsewhere. I've talked about this in my gearing upgrade and build video, so if you want to check that out, go for it. Or go to Little White Mouse's blog where she talks about it as well. So, this one. So this is the build that we will be taking. I will decide to take on Cossack just to get that 4-minute hydroacoustic search is really nice. So this makes sense to me, especially since it also increases the action time by 1 second for your smoke generator, and you get a longer duration on your engine boost action time. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more, and if you have already subscribed, thanks so much. And we'll catch you next time. So, take care.